What's going on, everyone? Another episode of the WVSports.com podcast. A special episode, not because West Virginia won, but it is because it is Keenan Cummings' birthday. So let's all wish him a happy birthday. And I know the Mountaineers wished him a happy birthday, getting a big 38-14 win on the road. So, Keenan, I don't think either of us expected what transpired this afternoon in Stillwater, but it was a wire-to-wire, full-fledged victory. Just a kind of never took their foot off the gas, never let Oklahoma State take control, and it was just a beatdown of the Cowboys from Stillwater. What was some of your main takeaways from this game?
Hey, I don't want to hear that talk. I predicted a win down there, remember?
You did.
But no, I did not expect it that way. I actually had someone ask me a couple of days ago, how do you think this game will go? And I thought it would either be a close West Virginia win, which is what I thought it would be, or Oklahoma State would rally and West Virginia would find themselves in some trouble. We don't know anything, apparently. This West Virginia team, they didn't just win. They played their most complete football game of the season. It's not even close. I mean, they played excellent football. The offensive line dominated the line of scrimmage. Even when there weren't holes, the quarterbacks were able to make plays with their feet, extend things. They only completed 10 passes in this game. They didn't need to throw the football. They rushed for 389 yards. That's the most. I went back and checked this. I'm going to double check it because I'm kind of – this is right after the game, but I think that's the most that Oklahoma State has given up on the ground, I think, since 2005. So that's pretty impressive.
I know it's the second time for West Virginia that they've done it since 2015, with the only other time being that Cincinnati game last year.
Yeah, that they're still running from that game, kind of like Ollie Gordon. But yeah. They did everything. We talked about this game in the build-up. What did West Virginia need to do? They need to shut down Ollie Gordon, check. They needed to make sure that Alan Bowman wasn't able to get into their RPO game. And if you can't run the football, it's hard to do that. The defense made some plays in this game. They didn't just win up front. That interception from Jaheim Joseph, that was a great play by him. He makes a read on that, makes that pick. The interception by Josiah Trotter, who just continues to improve every single game. This was, I don't want to say this is a wake-up call to the Big 12. I think that's being a little hyperbolic at this point of the season, but it's definitely for West Virginia what you want to see. You're coming out of the bye. The bye hasn't been friendly to Neil Brown really, since he's been here. But this team, they looked like they were on a mission. This game was, that doubt creeps back into your mind a little bit if you're a fan. You know what happened at Pittsburgh. Even a 31-7 lead doesn't feel safe. But this game was never in doubt. Like it really, they just dominated. And it was good to see Jaheim White get going. He had 190-some yards on the season, had 158 today. Really looked like he was patient, let things come to him, and really they just controlled the line of scrimmage. West Virginia had, I think it was 42 minutes time of possession. You can go down practically every stat to win a football game. West Virginia did it. Even those, miscellaneous stats, those, I guess, winning stats, penalties, they had 2 for 5 yards. First downs, they had 31. They had 11. Yeah, they had 81 total plays. They had 42-36 time of possession, no turnovers. For special teams, outside of the one kick return where they let them get the edge and the kickoff out of bounds, was pretty solid, all the way around. When your punter doesn't have to punt, because I guess technically it doesn't count since he got roughed, it's a pretty good day at the office. I mean, I don't see how anybody, you can point fingers, is this Oklahoma State team, did they quit? They lost Ollie Gordon, where they're at in the season. You can point to all that, but West Virginia doesn't have to apologize for that. They went out and beat a team on their home field, really as bad as they've beaten anybody in the Big 12 under Neil Brown on the road. This is the first time West Virginia has really gotten close to a 20-point road victory since Dana Holgorsen in 2016. He had 2 that year. He beat Texas Tech by 31 and Iowa State by 30, but that Iowa State team was bad. So I think that this is a really, really good win for West Virginia. Oklahoma State's 3-3 right now, and they have a lot of questions, but West Virginia's setting pretty good at 3-2. We talked about this coming into the lead up. If we would have told you West Virginia was 3-2 heading into the Iowa State game, a night game, I think most people would have taken that. I think they would have expected it to be a little bit different results. You flip the Pitt game with the Oklahoma State game, but there's a lot of ways to make a sandwich. In the end, West Virginia is not in a bad spot. They're 2-0 in the Big 12 right now, and momentum's a tricky thing, but it really does feel like this team's starting to capture it.
Yeah, I think the word wake-up call, I think that's something that stood out to me there. But I'm not sure if it's a wake-up call to the league as much as it is a wake-up call to themselves and them proving that they can go out and do this. Because when you lose a game like you lost the Pitt game and then you have to come back against Kansas, that doubt creeps in of, okay, so where are we? And I think today they kind of put that stamp of this is where we can be. And so it's a matter of can you then play consistently going forward? But like you said, they were just in full control. They did everything they had to do to win the game. When Oklahoma State got that big kick return and they were getting down into territory, that's when Shaheed Joseph made that play, right? And then on offense, they answered the call every single time. And I think if before the game you had told me Nico Markiel is going to be the quarterback on the second and third drive of this game, West Virginia is going to win by however much they won by, I'm not sure I would have believed you. But he looked really. I think that the whole talk of we have two quarterbacks that are good enough, we have a backup quarterback that we believe in, that was actually able to show. And I think there was that moment of shock for a lot of people when Garrett his right arm was motionless there. And you're like, oh no, this might be a long couple of months here. But then Nico comes in, throws a strike, kind of settles everything down. Garrett comes back in, and all is well that ends well. But Shaheed White, I think, is the story here. That whole rushing attack really is. You had 4 guys that had 46 yards or more, including both quarterbacks and both running backs. And he was just making plays. As you said, he was patient, but also when he had to kind of have that burst and have that playmaking ability, he did so. And then on defense, that was a really impressive play by Josiah Trotter. But as a whole, there was that one drive that I know we talked about this in the preview podcast of Oklahoma State had only allowed 1 sack coming in. They had 2 sacks on that one drive. And it wasn't just because the pass rush was getting there. It was because that defense was covering really well on the back end. And I think that was a big key as well.
And I think we have to give the defense a lot of credit. They've been beaten up. They've been thrown under the bus. I mean,
we were throwing the bus. We were driving the bus for a little bit there.
Call a spade a spade. Neil Brown said it himself. They weren't covering. So it's not, we're not saying anything cruel or being mean, but they weren't. They were excellent today. When they dropped 8, Oklahoma got them a few times. Oklahoma State got them a few times in those instances, but I thought they covered really well. I thought they did a really good job overall. There looks to be more confidence back there. I think the bye week was huge for this team. And you look at really, the last 2 series against Kansas and this game, the way this defense has played, yes, you can argue, those 2 teams have had some offensive issues. Ollie Gordon wasn't on the field for some of this game, but they've played really, really good defense. And if you complement that with the way that this team's able to run the ball and hit some shot plays and do enough in the passing game, you really start to wonder where this team can go. And I know that we're 5 games into this, and I think we still have a lot of questions with this team, but you're finally seeing it kind of come to fruition, what we all talked about in the offseason, the experience, the guys they brought back, the transfers they brought in on defense that were supposed to help. You saw those guys making plays today, and really some nice plays. And I want to go back to one thing offensively. I think Nico Markiel deserves all the credit in the world. He came in and he won a game for West Virginia down there in Stillwater in 2022, but it was nothing like this. He looked like a different quarterback even from last year.
Last year in that Texas Tech game, it wasn't like this either.
No, they were running offense. Other than the one play where they had him rolling the wrong way and he had to make a weird throw, I think that might not be the best, play call. But he looked really confident. He runs well. His truck stick he had on the safety in the open field. That was it's crazy because that wasn't even the biggest. CJ stiff arm beats that because that's just the type of day West. But he was great, and he ran the ball. He only threw 1 pass, but when your only pass is a 10-yard touchdown,
which was an absolute bullet on the money, perfect.
On a 10-yard pass on 3rd and 8, when you just got thrown in the game, that's pretty good. I think you'll take that. I think you can see that. Yes, Garrett Green is your quarterback, and he makes plays with his legs. He made a ton of plays in this game when things did break down. He got first downs other than the slide, of course, but that's debatable. I thought it was short, but I don't think it was as short as it was marked. But, of course, the one time he slides, right?
Yeah, but we also, if this was a close game, that is going to –
that's not even an issue.
And then some, but it doesn't matter.
I don't think that's even an issue. I think he takes that and goes if it's a close game. But I think he was told to get down and but anyways, I think that both quarterbacks played well. And if you have that confidence – and Markiel to come in, and it opens up the playbook so much more. And I think you've seen that. I think that they have faith in him. And this is a big step for him, because the keys of the offense are going to be in his hands next year. And getting this type of experience, the guy has not lost a football game that he's played in, at least, not in a blowout situation. When he's been called upon, West Virginia's won the game. And, he hasn't made very many mistakes. And today you saw that confidence that everyone talked about in the preseason. And, we saw in spring practice.
Yeah, two things for me that I think, as you said, the defense deserves a lot of credit because they have played really well going back to the end of that Kansas game. And especially today when all the talk all week was, look what Ollie Gordon did last year. Look what Ollie Gordon did last year, right? And then they come out and Ollie Gordon, the first run of the game went for 8 yards, and you were like, oh no, what's this going to turn into? And then they kind of bowed and they were fine. And then the biggest possession of the game for me was that right after the half, that first drive of the second half, because if you're a team that's going to get into that game, you got to score there. And they went stop, first 3 plays and just absolutely shut him down. I think that might have been I think that's when he got hurt, was I think the last play of that drive, and that might have been the last play he had. And so I think this defense deserves a lot of credit. You could see all day that Bowman wanted to get the ball out quickly, and he had to hold the ball and pat the ball just because the look wasn't there that he wanted. So that's credit to the secondary, but also credit to this linebacker unit. They played really well. They seem to be really physical in the run game. I know the numbers haven't come out about how they graded out, but I would expect Josiah Trotter to yet again have a really high grade according to PFF.
Really, really good player.
And then I think as a whole, just as a team, I don't think that you should minimize this win at all. I don't care what Oklahoma State is or isn't, but this is a big time win. And this is, we talked about what can that Kansas game do? What can that win do? And it seems like it really kind of changed some minds and changed some kind of just their overall vibe, if you want to say that, just because this team doesn't win the game the way they did if they didn't have the confidence, I think, carrying over from that Kansas game, because they were ready to go. And I think so many times during this Neil Brown era, this team has not been ready to go, especially on the road. And they were ready to go from the start. And I think that showed, even just getting 3 points on that opening possession and then getting a stop, right? Like that is crucial. And then coming down and having the quarterback switch and all that, like a lot of teams would settle for 3 there and just be thankful to get 3 when their starting quarterback goes at the game. And then as we said, Nico comes in, throws an absolute dart on 3rd down and gets a touchdown. So I think the biggest thing is not to minimize this win because of what Oklahoma State's factors might be, because you beat a team that was in the Big 12 championship game last year. You beat a team that was expected by a lot to possibly be in the college football playoff, if not the Big 12 championship game this year. So you got to take that at face value. And I mean, let's think about what we said back in August. We said this game was going to most likely be a loss no matter what, and it's not. And West Virginia gets the win. They're 2-0 in Big 12 play, heading home for what now is a huge 2-game homestand. And who would have thought that after that Pitt game?
Yeah, and I think it's crazy how much things can change. As hokey as it is, the one, go 1-0 every week. You need to go 1-0. Let's go 1-0 type statements. It really does seem like they've bought into that. They've invested in that. And you look at where this team's at. They're 2-0 in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is wide open. There isn't any team that I would consider the favorite. The favorite might be coming to Morgantown next week.
Or the week after.
Yeah, you get a chance to play Iowa State and Kansas State at home. Both can be winnable games. I think that Iowa State is a very good football team. I think Kansas State is also very good, but West Virginia's going to be at home. You flipped almost, I don't want to say you flipped the season on the head. It's too early for that. But you remember we talked about West Virginia not being able to seize the moment, not being able to rise to the occasion in a sense in that Penn State game. The moment was too big for them. Here it is. You got another chance. You have another chance. You've played yourself into another chance. You're going to have a very good Iowa State team. I think they're playing right now, so I'm not sure.
They play Baylor tonight, yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the score is right now to that game, but likely, I'm going to say likely.
Yeah, I'll tell you, 19-14 Iowa State with a minute and change left in the first half.
Yeah, so likely, I'm going to say likely an undefeated Iowa State team, but even if they're not, you get them at home in a night game environment with a fan base.
National team, Fox,
a night game in an environment that fans are craving. West Virginia hasn't had a lot of night games under Neil Brown. He'll be the first person to tell you that. So I think that
last year, but
this is a golden chance for them. And I want to give Neil Brown some credit here too. He gets chewed apart sometimes for his decision making, time management. I thought he was really good in those areas in this game. I thought play calling for the most part was good. I have no problem with anything that they did. It all seemed to work today, so it would be kind of ridiculous of me pointing out some minor things, but overall, this was just a really impressive team effort. And I think that the question here for me is, can you sustain this moving forward? Is this the best West Virginia you're going to get? Because I think if it is, you have a real chance to build on this moving forward. If this team can play defense somewhat like they played today, and I mean, I understand there's different matchups. Teams are going to present some problems, but if you can play defense like you did today with the offense that you have, you're going to have a chance in most of these games going forward, if not all of them.
Yeah, I think, as you said, the defense is the key because they don't even have to play as well as they played today. If they can keep a team under 24 points, you're going to give your offense a chance because of how well they've scored. I think this one is now 11 out of their last 13. Now they've scored 30 points or more, and they did so in the first half. Like, that's the offense, as much as we've also hit on them for not looking like themselves, for not really figuring out, they seem to figure it out today. Whatever they wanted to do was working. I think the weirdest thing for me was seeing after you get your starting quarterback go out after he took a big hit on a run, and then your backup quarterback comes in and he just keeps running. So you're not used to seeing that because they have depth that they didn't have at that position, and also because they trust Nico as a quarterback. And so that was cool to see. I thought that touchdown by Garrett where it looked like it was going to be a screen.
Yeah, it was like a busted play.
Then he just kind of pump fake, turns, spins, 15 yards later he's in the end zone.
Untouched.
It's like, oh, the quarterback whose arm was falling off 10 minutes ago is now scoring touchdowns on the ground.
That's when you know it's your day. You know, when
Exactly.
you're scoring on plays that they actually defend well, untouched. I mean, that's when you know it's your day. And, you know, credit to West Virginia because, you know, before the season, we said that this was a loss. I changed my tune, you know, last week, a little bit of a turncoat there. But
you've been a little sneaky with these picks here recently.
I have. I usually do pretty well. Yeah, I fell on my face for the Pitt game, but I usually do pretty well on that. I don't know if I'm ready to go to next week yet.
We've got time.
We got time there, but I do think that you got to walk away feeling good on a Saturday night. You mentioned it was my birthday, so pretty good day for me when you go to Stillwater and get some of your stuff written before the game's even over. Who expected that?
And it's stuff that will hopefully be read because it was a win and not a blowout loss. But closing thoughts, I'll go first. Just a good win, solid win, something that you need. It's something that this program's kind of been craving. This fan base has been craving. It feels like they've always had the opportunity to go on the road and beat a team of caliber of like Oklahoma State, and they just haven't done it. And this is the first time they did it really under Neil Brown. And so I think you could argue this is probably one of the most impressive wins under Neil Brown. This is certainly probably his biggest road win. Maybe that Virginia Tech game a couple years ago, but that team didn't seem to be too good overall, and neither was that West Virginia team. So I would probably go out and say this might be the biggest road win under Neil Brown. It's up there in the biggest win, certainly. I know that Oklahoma win in 2022 was big because you got the monkey of beating Oklahoma off your back, but this was a big one. And I think that let's see what this momentum is like, because I know on Monday Neil tried to downplay this whole momentum thing of we play every week, you can't really carry it over, but now you've got 2 wins and you're sitting at 2-0 with 2 big opportunities at your place. And so, as we said before the year, defending home turf is going to be huge. And so let's see what this team does going forward. But my big takeaway is big win. We didn't expect it really to happen, but it happened. Not this way. And I think it just opens the door for a lot more possibilities going forward.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you got to stop for a second and think that, you know, West Virginia has not lost a game to a team this year that's lost a game. You know, they're undefeated, Pitt and Penn State. Now, I don't know how good either of those teams are. That'll play out, but it's interesting to me that, you know, West Virginia's sitting here at 3-2. It's a good place for West Virginia to be.
And it's a 3-2 in a way that neither of us thought they would get to as 3-2.
Yeah, and it's weird to me just the way we've gotten here, but they have gotten.
It's very
here.
College football of the way that they're here.
Yes, and in a league this open, man, it's all on the table for you. I'm not in any way saying that West Virginia's going to turn around and win 8 or 9 games at this point. They've still got a lot left to prove. But if they really are believing in this 1-0, you know, move on to the next week, you know, that's the only thing we're caring about. They have a great opportunity against Iowa State. I think, you know, you go on the road after how, I don't want to say shaken, but you can use the adjective you want for the fan base after what happened at Pitt. The Kansas game gets them to look a little bit back towards it. This game kind of, you know, lift your eyebrow a little bit. You beat Iowa State at home. I think you've reversed your fortunes.
Yeah, if you somehow get that one next week at home against what will likely be a top 15 team, then I think the bigger picture conversations start to kind of leak their way into our conversations. But you got anything else, or are we going to let you get out of here and wish you a happy birthday?
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Stay tuned to our coverage. We'll have everything on this game, and then we'll jump into Iowa State starting Monday. So thank you for tuning in, guys, and it's been a good time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, watching. If you made it this far, we do appreciate it. Get all of our content on our website. That link is in the description wherever you are watching or listening to this. I'm Wesley Shoemaker, joined by Keenan Cummings. Thank you for listening, and this is the WestVirginiaSports.com podcast.